Zoom. And always got to look for that new place, wherever it is. New things popping up. So, all right. As we said last week, this is an opportunity for us to share ideas, not just to listen to Neil talk about what's in the book. We've all heard enough from Neil. So, the there's so much in here to spark conversation. There's not there's so much in here about the principles of this teaching and how you can use them and would use them and should use them and do use them and remind us if we're not using them. And I think that that's the beautiful part of it. And just to say that, I don't know whether you can see that, but already just on the first page, I got enough highlighted here for us to get going like crazy. So the chat we're doing 4 chapters a week for 4 weeks, roughly. We get to what we get to. It's the importance is more about the conversation, the depth of the conversation, and what we get out of it, not how many pages we cover. So the chapter 5, we left off with chapter 4 last week. Chapter 5 this week. You know what? I'll start just by reading that first paragraph to get us going. It's wonderful to know that your good is at hand. Your night wanes. Your dawn is breaking. There is a living spirit at the center of your being. The original author of all life is in and around you. Not a God who was, but a God who is. This is the great secret which you share with life. Life is wherever you are. It revolves around you, even as it flows through you. Keep the doorway of your mind open. Feeling, thinking, communing with this life, know that it fills you with light and with power. That's the basis of all this. But the first sentence of the next paragraph, I really find interesting because of one word that's in there.
Faith.
Learn to exchange fears, doubts, and uncertainties for faith. What does that one sentence mean? Somebody out there, let me know. What do you think that means? Learn to exchange fears, doubts, and uncertainties for faith. What is that telling us?
Well, I think that it tells me and always has told me that faith is the number one thing, that you believing. And that's what all of this, everything is based on. It's based on belief and your faith. And when I think of it, I think that there are basically two components to all of this: awareness and faith. Because if you when you are when I and I'll bring it back to when I am aware of my thoughts, when I am aware of my feelings, when I am the observer of all of this, then I choose constantly. I am constantly at choice point, and I choose faith all the time, all the time. And I'm not saying that it's always easy. Um, God knows that there are a lot of challenges, but being aware of those challenges and bringing it right back to faith, that's the key to everything. That I can't see how anything else is more important than self-awareness, self-regulation, because that is what brings me always back to faith. And
Yeah.
with faith, everything is possible. And I don't think that, it's like a candy store. Like, yeah, I want a Mercedes tomorrow. It just, that for me is so distant this desiring of things that I don't have. It is just so far away. For me. For me, it's all about awareness, faith, and gratitude. Gratitude is the vibration. To stay in the gratitude, even if it's the gratitude for my first breath, whatever it is, those components are just. And I know as we talk and as people add on or change the path of the conversation, that we'll find more things that contribute to the feelings of faith and gratitude and awareness. But for me, awareness is key. It is the number one thing.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Thank you, Joe.
Mhm.
And thank you, Lori and Zuma, for using the raised hand so I know what the order is of people and all. That makes it easier. Lori,
Good morning, everyone. I'm very grateful to be here. And yes, I agree with everything that Joe said. But when I hear the sentence, learn to exchange fears, doubts, and uncertainties, like Neil said, the word exchange means that it's acknowledging that I have those. It's
yes.
acknowledging my humanness like that. And so I'm not judging myself for like, oh my God, I have fears. Oh my God, I have doubts. It's like saying, like, no, here's the process. We learn to exchange these very human things, fears, doubts, and uncertainties, for faith. And that for me is like a process I can get my mind around and get my heart into, because it's a process, right? And like Joe said, it's a choice. And so the very fact that it's not like rid yourself of, but exchange, like makes it something that's puts it in my power to do and choice to make. And that it's an awareness of the fact that, oh yeah, these things are totally human. They're totally natural. We all have them. But today I'm choosing to exchange them for faith, so that
Yeah.
rather than be like, oh my God, I shouldn't have these doubts, or, like where, I'm so bad because I have fears. And, I just love that idea of exchange. The language in that is very compassionate and very loving and very doable for me. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that language. Thank
Yeah.
you.
There comes that darn human thing again, I'm
Yeah.
telling you. Uh,
Hey,
Zuma.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Because the fact that I can exchange it means that I have a choice. I have the power. I can do
Yes.
this. It's up to
Yes.
me.
Absolutely. MC, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I was going to say exactly what Zuma said. I was just going to say that the belief is, if you believe the power is within, then not that it's always easy, but change that thought. And I have a really quick technical question. How do I raise my hand electronically, folks? Where do I
If
find that out?
if you go down to the bottom of the Zoom window,
Yeah,
all those icons at the bottom,
yeah.
and you click on the word react, the little heart,
Yeah.
you'll see right in there near the bottom it says raise hand.
Oh, golly, I do. I didn't see the icon, but I saw it. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. It's kind of weird. They don't make it an icon like the other stuff, you know. So cool. Anybody else on comments on that? Ray.
Okay, I just did the old-fashioned way. Um, yeah, I tell you what really brought home for me was I've been doing this job for the last 2 weeks with other carpenters on a staircase, and
Was one of them Jesus?
yeah, I actually needed Jesus on this one.
I got
It was probably the most technical job I've ever done, and I had two other experienced carpenters on it, and so we're both learning from each other. But there were points where I felt like I'm over my head, like I don't know how this is going to turn out, and the client is known to be difficult and expecting a lot. So I really had doubts throughout the process, like in myself and in the other guys too, because there were a lot of firsts for all of us on how we approach things, and my body was just beat up from it, just beat up. Today I'm just recovering from. We finished it last night, and
wow.
it's spectacular. And it really turned out, and the clients were so happy. And I just, I didn't know if I had it in me to make this go the way it needed to go. And so today I kind of, worn out, washed out like a rag, and I feel just exhausted. But there's this satisfaction in knowing that, I just stayed with it. I was in it, and there was no place else to go. I was there, and I couldn't allow myself to take myself down or out of it and say, this is beyond me. Although there were moments where I thought that there were a lot of it that was beyond me. But then I just stayed. You know what? It was like, as a musician, you take it one measure at a time. And that's what I kept thinking. It's like one action at a time. And I was doing things over 3 and 4 times. They weren't working out. Instead of freaking out, I just like, nope, do it again until you get it right. And so I feel like the faith really carried me through, because I doubted myself and I had fears, believe me. There was a lot of uncertainties on how this was going to turn out. But to my surprise, and to all of us, it really did turn out. But it took everything out of me. And I think this is my swan song. This is the one that's going to have me retire. I'm done. This is it.
Yeah.
Can't sustain this anymore. It's
Yeah.
too difficult on my body, and there's a good one to end on.
Hey, you're not retiring. You're just making your living as a musician now.
You're right. A different set of faith, right?
Right. So, and it's interesting because I think we talked about it last week too, the difference, between faith and belief. That there's faith is knowing, belief is believing, and it leaves a little bit of an edge open for that. Faith first, deep faith. Now, what I also found interesting, and this brings an interesting question at the top of the next page, where he says, there is a law of faith which has the power to bring into your life everything you need, right?
Mm.
And that's a core principle. Jesus understood this. He said anyone who believes can do whatever he did, Jesus. But then just below that, but he also says it must be used, which again is key.
Mm.
But here's where I picked up, and a lot of times there's contradicting stuff that Holmes puts into the books, and I don't necessarily agree with everything that he has in the book or whatever. But the next paragraph down says, you need not go through any practices to unify with this power, for you are already one with it.
Mm.
So I circled that and I drew an arrow back to the line where he says, faith which has the power to bring into your life. So if it's already in us, why is it he writes that it has the power to bring it into us if it's already there? So I just saw that little bit of yes, Zuma.
Because we're not aware of it.
Right.
I mean, we are. God is, we are, I am. But it's my awareness of it that helps me develop my faith in it.
Right, which
So
brings me.
we don't have to do anything. We don't have to do anything because it already is.
Well, and that's what Joe said before about awareness.
In that regard, yeah.
But it brings me back to the line, but it must be used, right? And that's the key. I think when he refers to bringing it back, to bring it into your life, means through the awareness and using it, because it is something that's already there. And the way he says right here, we talked last week about belonging, and how we already belong. We belong just because we are. That sentence, you need not go through any practices to unify with this power, for you are already one with it.
Right.
Right? We belong. We have the power. We've been gifted this, Lori.
Yeah, he says this in a later part, or maybe it's an earlier part, but it is there. It's like electricity, right? It's there, but you still have to flip the switch. So for me, the practices are what flip the switch for my awareness, to allow the recognition of the fact that it's already there, it's all within me. But if I don't do my daily practices, I forget that. Like I'm not in
Right.
touch with that. So that's where the practice, for me, that's where the practices come in. Not that it changes, it doesn't create the electricity, it doesn't create the oneness or the power, it just puts me in alignment with it and turns it on. So that's my take on it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's his take on it too.
Absolutely. And I think too that, again, it's that switch, the awareness. Question. In the below that, he says, say to yourself, I place my affairs in the hands of goodness. Third line down, he says, have a childlike faith and trust in good. How would you define what a childlike faith is?
That summer's never going to end. It's like,
Yeah.
right? When you're a kid and the first day out of school, and I remember just getting on my bike, being so happy and never thinking, as a little child, when you get older, it's different. But as a little child, you're just playing every day. Every
What's
day is
what's that called?
I'm sorry.
What is that called?
That's called faith. That's joy.
That's
I don't know
Being in
what
the moment.
being
yeah.
in the
Oh, being
moment. It's
present.
being
Yes.
so present, right?
And as a child, you don't have to force your way into it. You don't have to talk your way into it. You don't have to think your way into it. You just are it. You are just present. That
Right.
moment, and summer never ends. It's just it's a beautiful thing.
And if a child has that presence, then there's something that's childlike that we lose. All right?
Yes.
There's no doubt in that presence of being a child. The
Right.
child has no doubt. They have nothing to base doubt on because when you're living in the present, there's nothing to doubt, right? Zuma.
That's what I was going to say. They're only in the now. There is no before. It's
No.
always the moment. I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Moment.
Yeah.
And I think, I felt as I've gotten older, and I don't know why it happens. I don't know if other people experience it, but I am more in the moment as I get older than I've ever been before. Maybe
Right.
it's because I was sick. Maybe it was because I had health challenges. I'm not sure. But every day I feel I don't even really think about yesterday. I don't really think about tomorrow. I'm very much right here in the day. And I maybe I don't know why. It's possible. I really don't know why, but I'm more present in my day as every day as I get older than I ever have been before, except maybe as a child. I wonder if anybody getting older has that same experience.
Yeah, there's even a saying about it, Joe, because when we were at Eulith's, and I don't know if anybody else was at Eulith's memorial, uh, you know, at the funeral home, when there were a number of us there, and the expression came up, and I forget whether it was either Patricia, I forget who brought it up, that Eulith used to say and quote the expression, twice a child, once a man.
Mm, mm, mm,
Right? And
mm,
it describes what life is like. We start as a child, we get into the adult part of our life, and then we become more childlike as we get older. And I think that describes what you're talking about.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Somebody, did you have your hand up?
Oh, it was me.
Oh, Terry, there you are.
Yeah.
You're the center square. I lost you.
Oh, Hollywood Squares. I used to love that. Joe, I relate to what you're saying. And to what Ray, when you were talking about, just having to dig deep.
when my mother was ill, it was just me making these decisions. I had to dig deep, y'all. I mean, every moment I would just pray, God, give me the strength. Give me the strength just to take this next step, make this next decision. Um, and now, um, she passed in June, and I still had to dig deep, um, in terms of there were times I didn't want to be here. And I'm going to be honest about that. My entire immediate family is gone, so it's been a struggle, but
Yeah.
I dig
Mm.
deep,
Yeah.
and it's like minute to minute. And Joe, I was relating to you talking about being very focused. I really don't like to cook, especially I don't like to cook for myself. I like to cook for other people.
Mm.
But I have found cooking for myself has been almost like a meditation. It's like, I don't know, it's like I just really get into it and really focus on just the whole process of it. I mean, I'm a creative person. I'm an artist. I'm a painter. Um,
Great paintings too.
Mm.
thank you. So, but just the physicality of the food, just like the touch of it, just really focusing on. I find that if I stay focused and I stay present and I stay in the moment, each moment, making that decision, um, to just take just one step forward,
Yeah.
that I'm good. If I look too far in the future, or I look back, then it gets really difficult. But if I stay minute to minute, it's a lot easier.
Yeah. No, I get it. It's tough. But, also, all those in favor of getting on the party bus next week and going to Terry and have her cook for us, just raise your hand. I think that'd be a good trip we should make. It's kind of a field trip for this thing called you, right? And I think we'll say this thing cooks for you will be our lesson for the title next week. So, well, we're here for you, Terry.
Thank you.
You reach out. Probably everybody here would say the same thing.
Uh,
Reach out, let us
yeah.
Oh
know,
yeah, I have been. I do. I reach out to
you know what? It's also a
various people
lesson.
in the tribe.
Thank you, Terry, for bringing it up too, because just as a community and who we are, let's not wait for people to reach out. Let's reach out to them as much as we can and make that sort of a mantra going forth this year would be fantastic. Yes, MC.
Yeah, I don't know how to reach out actually to you folks. A lot of people know each other, but I just want to say, Terry, my heart's with you because my mom died in September and I'm the last one left.
Oh,
Oh,
I get chills when I hear what you said. So I don't know if there was a way to connect. But uh, I'd
you
be
can put
happy.
in the chat. You can share information in the chat like Lori did.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't looking at the chat. I'm sorry. I will do that. I will do
yes.
that.
I'll
Thank you
do
so
Yeah,
that
much.
too.
put in email addresses or
Yeah,
whatever.
Terry,
And
I have the same circumstances and I'd be happy to talk anytime.
Fabulous. Thank you.
and anybody wants to connect, and you don't have everybody here has my information, and everybody here can get my information quite easily. Just going to the website or whatever. So if anybody wants to connect with somebody, use me as the middleman. I have a small fee that I charge for doing arrangements, like marriages or anything like that, So um, happy to get everybody connected. Um, the next part that comes up on the next page reminded me, and this was sparked in me this week. We talked about it last week. As we get further into this book, you'll realize that this is a book of affirmations, right? Say this, say this, say this as he goes through the book. It's a lot of prayers and affirmations. But one of my prayer partners, who is in the group with Michelle, um, and Michelle talked to us last week about the difference between affirmations and afformations. And this partner of mine was describing how and this is somebody who's a minister. This is somebody who's like, done a lot of study and everything for a long time, was in class with me. That this just changed entirely how she frames herself and her life by doing the affirmation instead of the affirmation. Okay, and some of you weren't here last week, and I'll restate it for you. An affirmation is, on page 36 in the book, it says, I am conscious that good is expressing through my thought. My mind is open to the influx of truth. I am guided. I am informed. I am guarded. I am led into pathways of peace and goodness. The problem with affirmations a lot of time is we're reciting something that deep down inside we don't really think is possible, or we may not really believe. Right? The affirmation is supposed to be, I'm going to be wealthy beyond my wildest dreams. And then you walk away and you step away and you go, yeah, okay. How am I going to do that? It's like, I don't know that I really buy into that. There's that little bit of doubt that comes in the back of your mind. That's part of the domestication process and all that we've been through. So changing this to an affirmation by putting the question, why am I, at the beginning of those affirmations. Why am I conscious that good is expressing through my thought? And then you look and say, why am I going to make more money next year than last year? And it puts you into that process of committing to whatever it is, right? It puts you into looking at it in a different frame, and it takes away any doubt that you might have where you say, yeah, well, I've been saying I'm going to make a lot of money this year for the past 10 years, and it hasn't happened, so what's different this year? And then you can answer that and say, well, the reason I'm going to make it is because I'm shifting my consciousness. This is a problem with goal setting that we go through all the time this time of the year. People want to set goals. My goal is to make $350,000 this year, right? And there's SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time constraint. All those are the goal setting that people do all the time. But it really should start with a C, and that's consciousness. And as we go through this book, I can't tell you the number of times already in what's coming up in these chapters, I've circled the word consciousness. Conscious. It's all about consciousness, right? So that you can have the SMART, specific, all those goals laid out and solid. But if you don't start with consciousness, if you have a lack, your consciousness is one of lack. I don't care what your goals are or how specific are, they're not going to be attained, right? So this is all about shifting consciousness. And in order to shift consciousness, we have to examine it more closely. And we can't do it sometimes by just saying, I am going to make $350,000 next year. Okay? So turning these into affirmations, and this one particular person said to me, oh my God, that just reshaped everything for me and how I see myself and what's possible. So I put that out there again as being really important. Further down this page, who was it? Lori, I think you brought it up before about where he mentions electricity. Electricity exists everywhere, but its energy must be directed. And then at the end of that paragraph, it says, you don't pray this power into existence. It already exists. And what we're talking about, what he gets into later in the book, and think about this for a second. When we talk about faith, and I've seen people define faith as, having a deep belief or knowing in something that can't be seen or defined. But how many things in our lives that are in our tangible lives versus our lives in faith or in spirit that can't be seen, but have always been there. How long do you think electricity's been around? Dave, you are
Forever.
muted. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
It's been around forever, electricity.
It has. And can you see
We-
electricity?
No, of course not.
Well, how do we know it's there?
We use it.
We
We
use
see
it
the
all the
effect, we see the
time.
effects. We see the effects of it.
We see the effects. How did we get the effects of it?
By using it. By
Right.
using
By knowing, through a knowing that it existed, and as
We're
I said
aware.
before, but you have to make use of it. You have to use it, right?
Right.
The this whole conversation today that we're having here is taking place over something invisible. I guarantee you none of your computers or your phones are plugged into a wire that's plugged into a wall, that's plugged into a server, that's plugged into the global internet that's coming back. You're all doing it through like Bluetooth, right? Or through wireless connection, right? You get in the car, turn on your radio. Where's that music? Can you see it? No. But we figured out that we can use it.
We channel
And
it.
that's, what's that? I'm sorry.
We channel it.
Yeah. Right. We found a way to take what we know is there.
Are you looking at that snow?
Yeah, I see it.
You got
There's
so,
a new strange cat in the back too that I never saw before.
Mm.
a lot of snow. So that's what we're dealing with life, right? That we get life this way. Lori,
Yeah, I know this is jumping ahead a few pages, but on page 40, it
jump
says,
away. There's no structure here.
okay,
Just jump.
because you're talking about consciousness, right? And on page 40, it says your consciousness, which means the sum total of your thoughts, is the medium between the invisible cause and your personal life. So when you're talking about the invisible electricity, the invisible radio waves, but for me, what's important in that is the sum total of your thoughts, right? Because we can say, oh, I believe in this, but do we really? Like, it's like taking the whole consciousness, the whole sum total of our thoughts, and releasing anything that stands in the way of that being a whole belief, right? Because we all have, those other thoughts that creep in, the race consciousness thoughts and the other things. And so I just thought that was in keeping with what we were talking about, that your consciousness is that medium between that electricity and how it demonstrates in your personal life. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, and how do you know what your consciousness is? How do you know where
Awareness.
your consciousness is?
what's around you. You look
That's
at
right.
Right. What demonstrates.
Look at your life.
Yeah.
your life.
We say it all the time. You can't out-demonstrate your consciousness. So if, it's easy to say, change your thinking, change your life, right? It just, okay, I'll just have a different thought. Well, you really need to change your consciousness, right? Because when we talk about meditation, we're talking about being the role of the observer and about changing our thought. Thought can't be changed at the level of thought. Thought has to be changed by the thinker of the thought, or what we call the observer, right? And we find that in the gap between the thoughts. So when you step into the gap between the thoughts, you're able to be in the role of the observer, see the thought, change the thought, and that's where your consciousness shifts, not at the level of thought, but at that level of the observer. So, that's consciousness. Good word. I've been picking stuff out. Who's got something else they want to pick out here? Thank you, Lori.
Neil,
Yeah.
can you say that again? Because not changed at the level of thought. Say that again, because that.
Thought can't be changed at the level of thought. You're too busy thinking. Besides, the minute you have The second you have a thought about anything, it's no longer true. Okay? It's no longer true because anything you think comes through a filter, which something else he talks about here, the rose-colored filter. I wanted to get to that too. It comes through a filter of your past. What did you walk into the room with, right?
Mhm.
Or Bill in Landmark, they call it what? The already listening, right? So that is
Already,
what.
always way of listening.
What's that?
Always, already, always. Now I forgot it. Forget it. Not important.
Got it. But you're walking into the room. It's why police don't necessarily put a lot of credit into eyewitness descriptions, right? I hear something,
Well,
automatically I'm kicking in with a thought of an interpretation of the event based on my past. I'm not seeing it like that little kid we talked about before for the first time,
Hmm.
right?
Mhm.
Little kid walks down the street, he's 4 years old, sees this big tree and goes, "Whoa, look at that tree," because he's never seen it before. It's a first time experience. I walk down the street and go, "Yeah, that's a big tree. A lot of those big trees around. Yeah, okay." It's like, yeah, I've seen those before. And, there's all these other things that come in. But like Einstein said, a problem can't be solved by the same mind that created it.
Yeah.
Then, at the level of thought, you want to change your thought. What thought are you going to use to change your thought? Home states it in here quite often,
Hmm.
right? You need to just get, if one thought's not working, you need to get the opposite thought. Well, first of all, when Joe touched on awareness earlier, you need to be aware of the fact that the thought's not working. Otherwise, you'll never change anything. But that awareness comes from being in the role of the observer. And that comes in the gap between the thoughts. And that's why a meditation practice is so important, particularly a mindfulness meditation practice that allows you to be in that role of the observer. So, that's a big part. Big part. Ray.
Yeah, what came to mind was I've been watching this Netflix series on going back in time to save John Kennedy from being assassinated.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, what came to mind about that was how much back that time period people fell in line and just pretty much stayed with trends, and the thinking was pretty contrived and limited. And then I jumped to 2026. I'm like, it's not much different, except looking at it back then, you go, wow, look at that. Look how so much in line people fall in line. And, where do the original thoughts come from? They're pretty much borrowed, or they're given away, and then you adopt them. So, this conversation is just kind of so outside those lines, but I accept them and I believe them.
Yeah.
But see that some people think you're crazy to have this kind of conversation. Like, what are you talking about? I don't even understand what you mean.
Right. Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Because people don't want to think.
Right.
Right?
It's
Because
too much work.
we've said it thousands of times, particularly for science of mind and what we do in the religious science. We're asking people to take responsibility for their lives, which means they have to step into that role. Right? And they don't want to do that. They'd rather not, which is why, and he mentions it in here, I don't know where it is, about they live lives and they take it all for granted knowing their reward will come in the next life.
Hmm.
Right? Sal.
All right, here we go. Just want to make sure I was unmuted. So with all of that and the already always way of listening, what came to mind is being in the moment, like like Joe has said, and so on, and living in that moment. There's so many thoughts to go through, and a lot of times I realize that in the quiet, and I'm working at it, but in the quiet versus the constant speaking. I realized that I know I'm one to speak a lot, and if I just pay attention and be in the moment and not in the constant chatter, that that would make a difference. And I don't know if that makes sense or to anybody,
No, it
but
does.
yeah. So
You know, it's
that's it.
and I don't know where the quotes come from or whoever said it first. It's the fact that you never learned anything new from talking.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
that your learning comes from listening, which to an
yeah,
extent is not true because any of us that stood in front of a classroom and have taught, we know that we learned an awful lot from standing up there and trying to explain something to somebody,
That's for
right?
sure.
But you know,
yeah.
but
But
in
sometimes you
general,
get.
that's true. Uh, one of
But
the
I was going to.
things, I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
No, I was going to say sometimes it's in the excitement of a thought or of a feeling that I think that's part of why I do talk sometimes. But then I have to ask myself, well, is it that I really believe what I'm feeling? That and that's where being in the not the silence, but in the moment
Yeah,
makes the difference.
yeah. One thing I do want to mention, and it was brought up to me because I want to try and continue these 4 Saturdays with different books going forward. We just get together and chat. That one of those books we should do is Mel Robbins' book, Let Them. Okay. And it's a popular book. And I know Michelle did a thing a year or so ago, a little session on that. It's not a new idea by any stretch. And I know that Holmes has said that before, right? So on page 37, second to the last paragraph on page 37 of this book, Holmes says, "Don't let anyone tell you this isn't true. Those who have used it in the right way have proved it to be true. Those who have never tried it know nothing about it. Don't argue with them. Let them alone."
Mm, mm.
So I think, you know, maybe we'll do that book as the next sessions here about, let them. Don't get wrapped up in stuff that you don't need to get wrapped up in. We don't need to prove anything to anybody. All right, let's just jump ahead here. Well, it's been an hour. We only got through chapter 5 so far. That's what I meant by it's more important what we talk about than what's in the book. Chapter 6. The only thing, the first line, spirit withholds nothing from you. We've been given everything. Huge. Zuma, you have something?
I was going from 5 into 6. It talked about the importance of being what did it say? What did it say? To maintain I'm reading on the Kindle, and I'm reading from the other book, not the one that your page is, Neil. So I don't know where everybody
Yeah,
is.
that's all right. It's the concept that's important, not the page.
But it's that one sentence from chapter 5 that says maintain a strict censorship over your thinking, which is basically is do your best to stay in the now. And then when it comes into chapter 6, in the second paragraph, the last sentence, it says become master of your thinking, hence master of your fate. So it always keeps coming down to that. It
Maybe
keeps
they'll
coming
make a
down to that.
snowman.
Couple paragraphs down, it says this the story of your life and of every man's life. Just keep right on knocking at the doorway of your consciousness, of your consciousness. So it keeps on. It keeps reiterating that be present, be here now, pay attention, guard your thoughts. Don't let them do mind wandering thing.
Right. Thank you. Is that you, Donald, going to build a snowman? Did you just talk about building a snowman?
Yeah, the cats in our backyard are building a snowman.
Oh, okay. So in that chapter 6, that second paragraph, often you may find that even though you start With an enthusiastic conviction, you become stranded on the rock of unbelief. And this just speaks to me about doubt and how much we put into doubt of questioning and not having faith. Keep in mind, you want to get rid of fear? Have faith. They can't exist in the same place. They just can't. That's people ask me all the time with all I'm going through right now, why aren't you afraid? I have nothing to be afraid of. I have faith. I have no fear of dying. I have no fear. I have faith. And, I know that because of that what we do know is that everything happens for me, not to me. And that's what I know. And that's what I have faith in more than anything else. Just my job to see what it is, right? To have that awareness and pay attention. All right, who's got something for me here in chapter 6? Zuma.
So I have like a gazillion highlights.
Yeah, me too.
If you listen to peace, you'll experience it. The creative law which we use is a mirror. It just everything is just what as somebody said earlier, and I think Dr. Ernest wrote it somewhere. Show me how you're living. I'll tell you what you're thinking, or the other way around.
Right.
But it comes down to the same thing. Don't hesitate to use the law for anything except what's constructive. So I keep seeing sentences that say, don't forget to. And the first word I see is the word forget. Remember to. I hope it doesn't rain. Why are we talking about the rain? That sort of thing. Oh,
Yeah.
Be careful so you don't get into an accident.
Yes. Right.
We keep saying what we don't want.
Right.
So yeah, that's
even
all.
even if we think we're negating it, we're reinforcing the existence of it. MC.
Yeah, Zuma, I noticed that last year, I think, how often people say, no problem, NP, no problem. I was like, why do I want to say problem? So that became for me, it's all good. It's all good. It means the same thing, right? I might as well be promoting the word good instead of problem. So I'm with you.
Yeah. It's just, people say I am a cancer patient. There's the good and the bad to support groups, right? So the support groups can be very helpful to some extent. Support groups can be sort of a weight because they keep you in a loop about what the problem is. Lori.
So in this chapter, maybe my favorite sentence is, the prayer of power is an affirmation so completely believed in that there is no longer any conscious or subconscious denial of it. On page 49. And that's that's where it's so deeply in your consciousness that it's just, there's absolutely no doubt. And that's where I aim to try to be. It's not where I am, but it's where I do all my spiritual practices. That's where I strive or aim or affirm that I will one day be, where it is just so completely believed. And I know that's where the power is, where there's just no subconscious doubt, no doubt at all. That's where the power of prayer comes from. And sometimes I'm there. Sometimes I get there. Sometimes I treat and I'm totally there, but not always.
Right,
And so
right.
that's why I do daily practices. That's why I meditate. That's why I pray, to
That's right.
constantly come
Right.
into that greater understanding. So anyway, I just wanted to
It's why
share
I
this.
show up on a Sunday. It's why I show up
Yep.
here, right? The next sentence after that, though, is really important too. It says, when your prayer or treatment arrives at a complete acceptance, it will be answered. Right? I mean, and that's so important. Where else? Anybody else got anything here? I like too on the next page, he says, you do not put power into your word, you take it out. You know, when you're, I forget who was saying it a minute ago, Zuma, maybe it was you, that, you know, they say all the time, we, life just mirrors back to us whatever we are inside, whoever we are, whatever we're expressing, right? It's just, it all comes from inside out. Goodbye, MC. Good seeing you here. See you next week.
What I really liked is on page, let me see, what is this, 51, where Holmes says you cannot change a pattern of fear by maintaining an attitude of fear or by fluctuating between fear and faith. Make a picture of yourself as happy and successful. Even there, when I do that and I think of myself smiling, happy, joyful, I feel that way. It's just like the thought of myself being happy, smiling, feeling well. I don't know. I naturally feel that way again, and in that my vibration is raised, I guess, because I can maintain that place. So I think it's important to think of yourself in different ways, and then you feel yourself into those ways. And for me, it happens very naturally and spontaneously. I have a wall of pictures, and in all of them, I'm smiling and happy. You know, I'm with loved ones. So I look at those pictures often during the day. And I think that it really is I don't know, it helps me in a way to maintain that feeling of joy and happiness. So I'm a big proponent of put pictures of yourself all around you, being happy and smiling and with people that you love. It works. I think it's helpful.
Yeah. And Gladys, yes, you're right. We've probably got 5 different editions, variations on this book going at the same time. So we're never going to get everybody knowing which page is exactly right. So, but it might put you in a ballpark of maybe a chapter, and hopefully that would help. And Joe, what you're saying is really true. And I was just talking to someone this morning who has a mother who's in an acute care facility, and she's declining, and you know, trying to deal with the depression. There's a book called Counterclockwise. It's a woman who's a professor of psychology at Harvard, and I forget what her name is, but she did a study, and she did a study in particular, did a retreat with men, like 80-year-old men or men that were 88 years old or whatever, and discovered that when she took them away for 4 days and took all the mirrors down, took any reference to where they were right now, and had the rooms filled with pictures where they were happy, at times when they were happy, and a lot of times that was 40 years younger pictures, music that came from those times, right? That in that course of those 4 days, they all changed dramatically. How they walked, how they held themselves, how they talked, were all affected and dramatic. You know, she got off the bus with them at the retreat center, and she had said, I had an assistant, but I forgot how the heck we were going to get all their luggage into the place, right? That there just was never something that was never taken care of. So all the luggage is taken off the bus, put on there, and everybody stood there looking at the luggage. And she said to these guys, all right, pick up your bag, let's go. You know, didn't let them get into the, oh, poor me, who's going to help me attitude. And that's for anybody who has elder people they're taking care of. That's a really interesting book on how to change, you know, their attitude. And it's like you're saying, surround yourself with those things that that made you smile or still make you smile, you know?
And I just wanted to add one thing. I had several years ago, my son was going through a very hard time, and he was deflated, and he just was not in a good place. And I decided to find a picture of him when he was very little. He was 3 years old. It was his third birthday. And he was surrounded by his friends and his siblings. And I kept that picture on my nightstand. And every morning when I woke up, I felt that day again. I felt his happiness again. I knew his happiness again.
Yeah.
And it took 1 year, maybe a little less, 9 months. His entire life turned around. His whole life turned around. And he's doing very, very well now. But I do attribute that to my just being in a place of happiness for him, remembering him that way, and continuing to believe in him in that way. So I really believe in those happy pictures and putting them around you. I think it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, very few of us ever put up a picture of where our kids look miserable, right? I mean,
right? So you're just looking at them and remembering that for people that you love.
Yeah, I can remember times when my kids gave me miserable looks. Zuma.
Default to the happy.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things. Actually, I was going to read where Joe started. I had raised my hand to do that. It started with the sentence right before that: learn to convert thought patterns of sickness, unhappiness, fear, and doubt into patterns which conform to spiritual perfection. Throughout this book, numerous times it says learn, 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 learn. That's one thing. The second thing, Lori had, when she talked about the power of prayer the prayer of power. In the Science of Mind textbook, on page 283, in bold letters in the middle, near the bottom of the page, says faith, and it refers faith is a mental attitude which is so convinced of its own idea, which so completely accepts it, that any contradiction is unthinkable and impossible. When I read that sentence in this thing called You, it reminded me of that passage. Lastly, as far as the different versions of the book, if you have the book that's white at the top and looks like the world in the middle, that's a Barnes & Noble edition. It does not have the word Jesus in it anywhere, and any paragraph where Jesus is mentioned is taken out. If the paragraph before it or after it pertains to what's said in that paragraph, it is also taken out. So FYI, it's a tall, thin, pretty book. It's white at the top, and it looks like the world in the middle of it. So that's important. I found that out when I was teaching this class.
Yeah, interesting.
Right? And I do have 2 copies now, Neil. Whichever page you say, I got it. Hardback, softback. I got them both. It's a taller.
What is the name of the book?
Beg pardon. It's called this thing called You.
Oh,
it's put out by Barnes. It's put out by Barnes and Noble. It's a tall, thinner copy, and you don't want that.
Okay.
Yeah, listen, a lot of stuff being put out. Let's see. Was there? Well, I did like too, well, it's page 53 in this book, but in the affirmations, where he says, "There is no confusion in spirit, therefore there is no confusion in my mind." Right? Confusion being a construct that comes from the human mind, not from spirit. All that's in spirit is perfect.
Yeah, I highlighted that. Mm-hmm.
The right here at the first page of 7, he makes an interesting statement, which is say, okay, that's true, and I get it. But if we think about it and try and apply it in our lives, it's something that to do the introspective work. Chapter 7, the second sentence, your words do not create this truth. They merely reveal it. But the second paragraph is important. Now suppose that a colored glass is placed between you and the picture so that the picture appears blurred, right? And he's talking about what he mentioned in the first paragraph about imagine yourself looking to a picture of a beautiful landscape. So if you're looking at that and then you put a piece of colored glass in between, it blurs the picture. Everything seems distorted, and yet nothing has happened to the picture. That landscape is still there. That picture is still there, right? But now you've placed this colored glass in between. It is your business to remove the colored glass because the picture is still there on the wall. It still may be seen. And right, that's what we're talking about. There's a perfection. We are that perfection. The perfection of the one mind, that this is who we are. We're created in that's who we are, the perfect expression of the divine and a unique expression. So my question is, we do place that colored glass in between. But if we just stop at that thought, all we know is that it's there. But if we ask ourselves and think about it for a minute, what is it that colored glass is composed of in your life? What makes up that colored glass you're putting between you and that perfection, the picture of perfection?
Are you actually asking that question, or are you just giving us that food for thought?
Are you actually answering that question?
I can't. Well,
Then I see Sal had his hand up first, but if you guys can, yes, I'd like to hear. It'd be great. You don't have to reveal a lot of personal stuff if you don't want to at this point. But yes, I am asking that question. Real.
I would say fear. Fear of knowing your true self. Fear of anything that has stopped you from being your authentic self.
Okay. Zuma?
And it starts with, when I was born, my I didn't teach myself what my self-worth was. I was taught whatever everybody around me taught. If I was told I was a good girl, a bad girl, if I was this, I was that, I was the other, and I took on those beliefs. So, and then I believe Anais said that we don't see the world as it is; we see the world as we are.
Correct.
So I'm actually seeing things through my own lens. I use that similar example when I talk about if I put on a pair of blue glasses, then the world is suddenly blue, and then I'm looking around like, why is the world so blue? Not paying attention. I want to blame the world for being blue rather than realize that it's the way I'm seeing it. And of course, we know once I decide to, take the blue colored glasses off, then the world looks bright again.
Yeah, Terry, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think for me, it's doubt. It's doubt and it's fear. But the fear is more along the lines of if I believe, it's twisted. If I believe and it doesn't happen, the fear is I'll believe and it won't happen. Does that make any sense? It's like I'll put all this work into it and I still won't get it. So then what does that, whatever it is that I'm after, be it peace of mind or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's the fear that I'll do all these things. But then I say to myself, the way you've been doing it isn't working. So that's definitely not working. So, this is leading you in a different direction. Why not? What do you have to lose, basically? But for me, it's definitely doubt and fear.
And here again, we talk about the difference between faith and belief. Right? If your faith is deep enough, you don't worry about whether it's going to happen. You know it will.
Right.
It's a
Yes.
knowing. You don't step into that doubt. If it's just a believing, maybe that door is open a little bit of crack open there for the doubt to come in. But faith won't allow for doubt. So,
Well, I think also we have to keep in mind that there are many aspects to our being, and there is humanness, and we are human. We have many human aspects. So I think it's important to allow fears and doubts to come and go, and realize, and even looking, well, I'll say for myself, looking in through my life. Yes, fear, it comes and it goes. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is permanent. Not even your fear is permanent. Not your doubt is not permanent. So just to have this allowance to love yourself, to just say, yeah, okay, you're feeling tender today. All right, I'll let that be. And I'll love on myself a little bit more. Just to
yeah,
realize that we're not, we're so many aspects to our being, and
yeah,
to let these things have a voice, and then just let them go, because they eventually go. So you don't have to know, I guess, that you don't have to stay stuck. I do not have to stay stuck in
right,
anything if
right.
I can appreciate my humanness.
Absolutely. Yeah. Donald, did I miss you? Did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes. Well,
Then we'll get to Sal.
it's a part of the domestication of the planet. Since in the way we were socialized, that we have fear, that we want to compete, that you're not tall enough, you're too short, you're too fat. So we are taught things. We are taught what to believe. So the science of mind teaches us how to think. We know that thoughts are things and thoughts become things. So what we believe about ourselves and where we have doubts and where we hesitate, those things come back to haunt us. And somebody said back in the time of King George, my greatest fears have come to haunt me. So if I dwell on fear, fear shows up, because Ernest Holmes says dominant thought prevails. Dominant thought prevails. So the science of mind teaches us change your thinking, change your life. And Ernest Holmes says this is not going this way is not easy. It's simple. Follow what he has written for us. So we believe in ourselves. We have to throw off the disbeliefs about ourselves and believe in ourselves and know that we are one with spirit, that we co-create, that we are the bomb diggity, and don't forget it. We are the one, we are the gift that we have been looking for. We are the gift. Recognize, recognition. I'm complete.
So, is that Old Testament bomb diggity? Is that was Moses the first one to say bomb diggity there? I'm not sure there.
Being the bomb diggity is so powerful,
Yes, it is.
knowing that I'm a badass.
Sal.
So I was going to say, fear probably saved my life during the AIDS crisis, because of just that fear that stopped me from doing things that would allow me to have potentially have gotten it. And so that's one thing that I can say I love about myself, because I knew that deep down inside, I knew that it was better than what I was thinking about. And then the other thing is, and I'm about to try to do some shadow work, but, I was an adopted child, and I found out recently some things. So it's not important what I found out. What I found out, though, is my birth mother really did love me, but she felt a lot of shame. And I believe that in the womb that there is an aliveness, and her shame I took on, and with that shame became who I basically who I did become, and the rose-colored glasses of being Mr. Nice Guy, because I didn't want anybody to really know my true self. So that's it. I'm complete.
Nice. Did I miss anybody else? No? Okay. Jenny?
Jenny, yeah.
Um, yeah, I agree very much with the idea of the rose-colored glasses and how it paints our world. And I guess I have a question to all the parents or just anyone who's helped shape the world of a little one, because that, how I think about I'm shaping Jameson's world, that's like of the utmost importance and priority in my life right now. And it's a big responsibility. And I struggle sometimes because I see, like Kelly talked about, this childlike faith and just goodness. I see that every day demonstrated through him, of just that's all he sees. And I'm so conscious of like where I'm starting to plant the like, well, no, you can't do that. Or like, no, that's not the way the world is. And I don't ever want to do it to him. And but then I find like sometimes like just for the reality of life, I have to impose these little like, well, it doesn't really work that way. And it drives me crazy sometimes because like it's this constant dance, of wanting to be realistic and have him in the world, also just wanting to preserve that innocence and that love and that goodness in him.
Yeah, and the only thing I would tell you is that what I found to be the most valuable thing to do as a parent is honoring their, don't look at them as kids, look at them as people. Don't look at them as, less than, look at them as less experienced, that that they have the same feelings and ideas and the right to have all of those things as an adult, and that I would explain that to my kids and say that you're no different than me. You're just in a different level in this family as far as age is concerned, and that's it. But listen, from the time they're born, their whole job is to individuate, to get away from being like you, right? And if he turns out like you, we'd all be happy. We love you, But that's, I think that's the most important, and that if you do that, you can be in a position of more guiding than molding. I just think that's really, really important to guide them into being who they are themselves, their authentic selves, with you there, right? And not necessarily say, well, you can't do that because that's going to happen, or you can't do that till that's going to happen, but give them the room and just be there. It's kind of like going to a bowling alley and asking them to put out those guards in the gutter, so that it's like if they go too far one direction or the other, you'll bring them back to the middle, and they'll hit some pins. But that's it. If anybody else has anything, though, Zuma, I see your hand is raised.
The only what came to mind was what we were reading earlier about the childlike faith and trust. And when I talk about I hear you say what's realistic, what's real is that which lets us have that childlike faith and trust. If as it was Don who said, if we're living from principle, perhaps, just perhaps, that child is teaching you to have more faith and to worry less, get out of the past. Don't concern yourself about the future. Be here now. Enjoy the moment. And that's all I've got. I didn't bear any children intentionally, but I have since 3.5, now 25, have been in the life of a couple young ladies. So but yeah, I've learned from them. I go to, I'm thinking about, what's going to happen, and here they are telling me about what's happening now. I'm like, you know what? Absolutely. I'm in this breath. I'm right here now. And yeah, of course you have to, the guardrails, of course you have to, um, but generally speaking, that child is really just expressing life. That adult in the making is expressing life and is maybe teaching you where you need to figure out, to look at what's really real.
Yeah, and Jenny, on page 60 of this book at the bottom, where it says, "You rob no person when you discover your own good." Okay, and I think that's really important. That if you do if you do the guiding, and your job is to get them to love themselves, and that if they love themselves and they develop a self-confidence and a self-respect, that all else is going to fall into place. And I think that's really, really important. And do you got any other questions, Jenny? Anything that we...
No, I'm complete with that.
Zuma, you more?
Briefly, that the same mind that we have, the same capital M mind, that same divine mind, is that child's divine mind as well. It's the same mind, just as Neil said, just at different level, but it's the same divine mind. God is working through that child the same way it's working through us, as us.
Sal?
And I was going to say, Jenny, just know that you're always doing the best you can at any given moment. I mean, I had to learn that the hard way.
All right, we are at 5 minutes left. We didn't get to chapter 8, but that's okay. And one thing it's probably too long of a conversation, but I'm always intrigued by the languaging of the time and the languaging that Holmes used. And I know several people last week said, I got trouble with the way Holmes writes. I can't read that easily. But on page 63, where he says, when the spirit thinks, knows, or wills, a law is set in motion. And then down below that, in the middle of that paragraph, then God thinks only that which is good. The concept of God thinks, I thought, was an intriguing conversation. I'm a little surprised to see him using that terminology, that God thinks. And I would just throw that out if you guys want to think about that. If you're God, maybe you don't have to think about that, because God thinks, maybe not. Does God think? Is that a projection of like a duality? I don't know. I found that to be an intriguing point. God is, Lori?
This is not in addressing what you just said, Neil. This was just, since we're coming to the end, this is one thing from chapter 8 that I wanted to share that I thought maybe everybody wanted to think about. And that's on page 71, where it says, principles never have problems. Problems are solved by bringing them under the control of principles. The problem is dissolved as the principle flows through it to the correct answer. And that I found that to be very powerful. And so I just wanted to share that from chapter 8,
I have that highlighted, underlined, and an asterisk next to it.
Me too.
That's a big statement. God does not have problems. So therefore, what's the answer to any problem? I'll give you a hint. It's not more cowbell. It's more God. Right? So, Zuma.
And from Course in Miracles, it talks in levels, and it says you're talking about God thinking. Level 1 is that, of course, God can't think. But at level 2, it's talking basically to to the ego, the part of me that thinks that thinking is the thing, that the old concept of God, sort of. I think so. If I'm thinking, then God is thinking. If I am what God is, then God is thinking. I'm thinking, that sort of thing. So it's kind of talking. That's the way I see it, as a level 2 statement rather than a level 1 statement. Level 1 being the allness of it, and that it doesn't think because it just is. But at level 2, it's seeing it. It's giving us a way of seeing it. Giving my little mind a way of seeing it from a form perspective.
Yeah. Page 75. No harm can come to you when you know that God is at the center of everything. Faith. That's faith. Okay.
I like that. Yeah.
That means we will have 9, 10, 11, 12 for next week. These are great conversations. I love these conversations. Thank you all for chipping in, for speaking up, for sharing, for being vulnerable in some cases here, which I really, really love. Thank you, Jenny, for having babies. I think that's a wonderful thing, and we love Jameson, and you're doing a great job. We can tell you're doing a great job. Just take one look at the way Jameson is now in our band. I mean, really, shaking the maraca. So, anybody would like to treat us out?
I will.
Oh, okay. Beautiful.
So recognizing and remembering that God is all there is, that there is only this one life. Call it what you want, call it spirit, call it love, call it life, call it truth, call it peace. But there's only the one life, and that life is what we are. It is what I am. I'm one with it. It is one with me. Therefore, I can be neither separate nor apart from it. As I know it for myself, I know it for each and every one here, knowing that this conversation today has opened us more and more and more to being willing to remember God, to stay in God, to keep learning, to focus on the present, to stay in the truth. I'm grateful for this opportunity to be here now, to learn, to meet a new family, recognizing that even in form, as we are different, in truth, we are all one. As we continue with our day, I give thanks, knowing that it's all good because it's all God. And I ask you then to anchor with me by saying, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, everyone.